And of course, I'm home as I generally am because I don't work full time. So I'm going to read the little bonus material at the end of Obsidian um, because you didn't ask for it, but I'm bringing it. Uh-oh, SpaghettiOs. This one has a little title. This is from Damon's point of view, guys. So the moment I walked into trig class, I saw Kat. Kind of hard to miss with that whitish glow surrounding her. I spotted a couple of seats empty on the other side of class. I knew that's where I should go. Instead, I switched my notebook to the other hand and headed straight down the aisle where she was seated. She kept her eyes glued to her notebook, but I knew she was aware of me. The faint blush along the tips of her cheekbones gave her away. I grinned, but then my gaze slid to the awkward splint covering her slender arm, and my grin faded. Potent rage swept through me at the reminder of how close she'd come to becoming an Aram's play toy. My teeth gnashed together as I stalked past and fell into the seat behind her. Images assaulted me of how she'd looked after the Aram attack. Shaken, terrified, and so tiny in my shirt as we waited for the useless police to show up. If anything, this should have served as a reminder to get my ass up and move to a different seat. I pulled a pen out of the spiral ring on my notebook and poked her in the back. Kat glanced over her shoulder, biting her lip. "How's the arm?" I asked. Her features pinched, and then her lashes swept up, her clear eyes meeting my stare. "Good," she said, fiddling with her hair. "I get the splint off tomorrow, I think." I tapped my pen off the edge of the desk. "That should help." "Help with what?" Wariness collared her tone. Using the pen, I gestured to the trace surrounding her. "With what you've got going on here." Her eyes narrowed, and I remembered she couldn't see how she was lit up like a Christmas tree. I should have cleared things up, but it was so much fun getting a rise out of her. When it looked like she was 2 seconds from smacking me upside the head with her splint, I couldn't help myself. I leaned forward, watching her eyes flare. Less people will stare without the splint, is all I'm saying. Her lips thinned in disbelief, but she didn't look away. Kat met my stare and held it, not backing down, never backing down. Reluctant respect continued to grow inside me, but underneath that, something else was developing. I was 2 seconds from kissing that pissed-off look right off her face. I wondered what she'd do. Hit me? Kiss me back? I was betting on the hitting part. Billy Crump let out a low whistle from somewhere off the side of us. "Ash is going to kick your ass, Damon." Kat's eyes narrowed with what looked a lot like jealousy. I smiled. I might just need to change my bet. "Nah, she likes my ass too much for that." Billy chuckled. I tipped my desk down, bringing our mouths within the same breathing space. A flash of heat went through her eyes, and I so had her. "Guess what?" "What?" she murmured. Her gaze dropped to my mouth. "I checked out your blog." Her eyes shot back to mine. For a second, they were wide with shock, but she was quick to smooth her expression. "Stalking me again, I see. Do I need to get a restraining order?" "In your dreams, kitten," I smirked. "Oh, wait. I'm already staring in those, aren't I? Starring in those, aren't I?" She rolled her eyes. "Nightmares, Damon. Nightmares." I smiled, and her lips twitched. Damn it. If I didn't know better, I'd think she liked our little fights too. The teacher started calling roll, and Kat turned around. I sat back, laughing softly. Several of the kids were still watching us, which kind of knocked the sense back into me. Not that I was doing anything wrong. Teasing her wouldn't bring the Aram to us or put her in danger, or my sister. When the bell rang, Kat bolted from class. Shaking my head, I grabbed my notebook and headed out into the throng of students. During a class exchange, an hour later, I ran into Adam, who fell in step beside me. "There is talk." I arched a brow. "Talk about what?" How everyone drives trucks around here, or how cow tipping is really a pastime, or how my sister is never, ever going to get seriously, ever going to seriously get with you. Adam sighed. Talk about Katie, smartass. Schooling my features, I stared straight ahead as we navigated the crowded halls. Both of us were a good head or so taller than most. We were like giants in the land of humans. Billy Crumps in your trig class? Yeah, I know that already. He was talking in history about you flirting with the new girl, Adam said, sliding past a group of girls who were openly staring at us. Ash overheard him. With each passing second, my annoyance was hitting an all-new high. I know you and Ash aren't seeing each other anymore. Yep, I grit my teeth. But you know how she gets. Adam continued quickly. You better be careful with your little human. I stopped in the middle of the hall, 2 seconds from throwing Adam through a wall. Kids shuffled around us as I barely spoke above a whisper. She's not my little human. Adam's gaze was unflinching. Fine, whatever. Out of everyone, I don't care if you took her into the locker room and did her, but she's glowing, and so are your eyes. And all of this is familiar. Shit on a brick. Striving for patience, I wasn't known for. I started walking, leaving Adam behind. I needed to stay the hell away from Kat. And that would keep her away from the rest of the Luxon, namely Ash. When was the moment Katie became different from the herd, from the rest of the humans? Someone I wanted to know. And Adam was right. All of this was familiar, except we'd had this conversation with Dawson over Bethany. Damn it, this is not happening. I glided through the rest of my classes, bored out of my freaking mind. Many times last year, I tried to convince Matthew to get me a forged high school diploma. No such luck there. The DoD probably thought school was a privilege for us. But what they taught us couldn't keep my interest. We learned at an accelerated rate, leaving most humans in the dust, and the DoD would have to approve my request to go to college if that's what I decided. Hell, I wasn't even sure I wanted to go to college. I'd rather find a job where I got to work outside, something that didn't include 4 small walls. When lunch rolled around, I was half tempted to call it a day. School wasn't the same without Dawson. His exuberance for everything, even the mundane, had been contagious. Not hungry, I grabbed a bottle of water and headed to the table. I sat beside Ash and leaned back, picking at the label on the bottle. You know, Ash said, leaning against my arm, they say what you're doing is a sign of sexual frustration. I winked at her. She grinned and then turned back to her brother. That was the thing about Ash. Even though we dated on and off for years, she could be cool when she wanted to be. Neither of us were really into each other, not the way Dawson had been with Bethany, or as we should be. Lifting my eyes, I immediately found Kat in the lunch line. She was talking to Carissa, the quieter of the 2 girls, intrigued. My gaze dropped down to her flip-flops and slowly worked my way back up. I think I love those jeans, tight in all the right places. It was amazing, really, how long Kat's legs looked for someone so short. I couldn't figure out why it seemed that way. Ash's hand dropped on my thigh, drawing my attention. Warning bells went off. She was so up to something. What? I asked, her bright eyes fixed on mine. What are you looking at? Nothing. I focused on her, anything to keep her interest off Kat. As feisty as the little kitten was, she was absolutely no match for Ash. I set the bottle aside, swinging my legs toward her. You look nice today. Don't I? Ash beamed. So do you. But you always look yum-tastic. Ugh. Glancing over her shoulder, she then turned back and slid into my lap faster than she should have in public. A couple of boys at a neighboring table looked like they would have traded in their mums to be in my position. What are you up to? I kept my hands to myself. Why do you think I'm up to anything? She pressed her chest against mine, speaking in my ear. I miss you. I grinned. No, you don't. Pouting, she slapped my shoulder playfully. Okay, there are some things I miss. About to tell her I had a good idea of what that thing was. Dee's jubilant shriek cut me off. Katie, she yelled. Cursing under my breath, I felt Ash stiffen against me. Sit, Dee said, smacking the top of the table. We were just talking about... Wait. Ash twisted around. I could picture the look on her face. Lips turned down, eyes narrowed. All that equaled really bad times. You did not invite her to sit with us. Really? I focused on the painting of the PHS mascot, a red and black Viking, complete with horns. Please don't sit down. Shut up, Ash, Adam said. You're going to make a scene. I'm not going to make anything happen. Ash's arm tightened around my neck like a boa constrictor. She doesn't need to sit with us. Dee sighed. Ash, stop being a bitch. She's not trying to steal Damon from you. My eyebrows shot up, but I kept up the prayer. Please don't sit down. My jaw locked. Please don't sit here. If she did, Ash would eat her alive out of pure spite. I'd never understand girls. Ash didn't want me anymore. Not really. But holy hell if someone else did. Ash's body started to vibrate softly. That's not what I'm worried about, for real. Just sit, Dee said to Katie, her voice tight with exasperation. She'll get over it. Be nice, I whispered in Ash's ear, low enough for only her to hear. Ash smacked my arm. That'll leave a bruise. I pressed my cheek into her neck. I mean it. I'll do what I want, she hissed back. And she would, too. Worse than what she was doing now. I don't know if I should, Kat said, sounding incredibly small and unsure. Every stupid, idiotic thought in my head demanded that I dump Ash out of my lap and get Kat out of here, away from what surely was going to end up being horrible. You shouldn't, Ash snapped. Shut up, Dee said. I'm sorry, I know such hideous bitches. Are you sure? Kat asked. Ash's body trembled and heated up. Her skin would be too warm for a human to touch without realizing something was different. Wrong, even. I could feel her control slipping away. Exposing herself wasn't likely, but she appeared mad enough to do some damage. I turned my head to look at Kat for the first time since I'd seen her in the line, and I already knew I was going to hate myself for what I was about to say because she didn't deserve this. I think it's obvious you're wanted here. I think it's obvious if you're wanted here or not. Damon, my sister's eyes filled with tears, and now it was official. I was irrevocably a dick. He's not being serious. Are you being serious, Damon? Ash twisted toward me. My gaze held Kat's, and I clamped down on everything. She needed to leave before something shitty happened. Actually, I was being serious. You're not wanted here. Kat opened her mouth, but she didn't say anything. Her cheeks had been pink, the way I liked them, but the color faded quickly. Anger and embarrassment filled her grey eyes. They glistened under the harsh lights of the cafeteria. A sharp pierce sliced through my chest, and I had to look away, because I had put that look in her eyes. Clenching my jaw, I focused over Ash's shoulder on the stupid mascot again. In that moment, I wanted to punch myself in the face. Run along, Ash said. A few snickers sounded and anger whipped through me, heating my skin. It was ridiculous that I was pissed that other people were laughing when I'd embarrassed her, hurt her more than anyone. Silence fell over the table, and relief was imminent. She had to be leaving now. There was no way. Cold, wet, and sloppy stuff plopped on the top of my head. I froze, aware enough not to open my mouth unless I wanted to eat spaghetti. Did she? Sauce-covered noodles slid down my face, landing on my shoulder. One hung off my ear, smacking me against the neck. Holy shit. I was dumbfounded as I slowly turned to look at her. Part of me was actually amazed. Ash leapt from my lap, shrieking as she shoved her hands out. You... I plucked one of the noodles off my ear and dropped it on the table as I peered up at Kat from underneath my lashes. The laugh came up before I could stop it. Good for her. Ash lowered her hands. I will end you. My humor vanished. Jumping up, I threw an arm around Ash's waist. Calm down, I mean it. Calm down. She pulled against me. I swear to all the stars and suns, I will destroy you. What does that mean? Kat balled her hands, glaring at the taller girl like she wasn't afraid of her one bit, and she should have been. Ash's skin was scorching hot, vibrating just beneath the surface. At that moment, I started to doubt she'd not do something stupid as reveal us in public. Are you watching too many cartoons again? Matthew stalked over to our table, his eyes connecting with mine for a moment. I'd hear about this later. I believe that's enough, he said. Knowing not to argue with Matthew, Ash sat down in her own seat and grabbed a fistful of napkins. She tried to clean up the mess, but it was pointless. I almost laughed again when she started stabbing at her shirt. Sitting down, I knocked a clump of noodles off my shoulder. I think you should find another place to eat, Matthew said to Katie, voice low enough that only the people at our table could hear. Do so now. Looking up, I watched Kat grab her book bag. She hesitated, and then she nodded, as if in a daze. Turning stiffly, she stalked from the cafeteria. My eyes followed her the whole way out, and she kept her head held high. Matthew turned from the table, probably off to do some damage control. I wiped the back of my hand down my sticky cheek, unable to stop myself from laughing softly. Ash smacked me again. It's not funny. She stood, hand shaking. I can't believe you think that was funny. It was. I shrugged, grabbing my water bottle. Not like we didn't deserve it. Looking down at the table, I found my sister staring at me. D. Tears built in her eyes as she stood. I can't believe you did that. What did you expect? Andrew demanded. She shot him a death glare and then turned those eyes on me. You suck. You really freaking suck, Damon. I opened my mouth, but what could I say? I did suck. Woof woof to you indeed, Doug. I'd acted like an ass, and it wasn't like I could defend that. Dee had to understand it was for the best. But when I closed my eyes, I saw the hurt in Kat's eyes, and I wasn't so sure I'd done the right thing. At least, the right thing by her. This one is called The Morning After. Oh my goodness, there are so many comments. Hi, hello. Read me a story, sweetheart. Is this Lord of the Rings? You read fairly well for a high school dropout. One vote for punching yourself in the face. Somebody destroy somebody already. Who didn't love The Morning After? How are you this morning? Yes, you did mute him, but I can still see what he says. I'm okay. I got up at like 6:30. Even though I went to bed super late, my body's just like, yo, what's up? It's time to wake up, bish. So I got up and went and took a shower. I washed my hair. That's why my hair looks like this currently, because it's attempting to dry. And then I did a little bit of tidying up. But I do have to go to the post office and I need to go to the shops because I don't have any groceries. I mean, I could whip something up with what I've got, but I like need to do a proper shop. And I need to drop some stuff off at the post office to send it back because it doesn't fit me. And then I will be in the afternoon going to visit my sister and my nephew because I want to hang out with my nephew and my sister before the baby comes. Because I'm pretty sure she's supposed to have the baby somewhere in between this week and next week. So she's having a visit from her midwife today. And she was like, hey, you can come over after the midwife visits. And I was like, sick. So I'm going to go just in case. Posting something or picking up some more shoes. Oh, no, I have to post. So I bought a couple of bras, but the sizing. So I got my normal size, but, you know, with different brands, like the sizing is always a little bit off. It's just stupid. But so I have to send them back because they don't fit. Like the band fits, but the actual cups are just too small. Bras suck, right? I'm not wearing one right now because I'm just like, fuck that. It's my day off. 6:30. I know it's too early for someone who doesn't have children, right? It sucks when the sizing is off. Yeah. But you know what? I'm in a fairly good mood because I've been spending the last few days in contact with my guy. So it's been quite nice, and I'm just in a little bit of a better mood. Oh, your online interview in 45 minutes. Mazel tov. I hope you get it. Yeah, going well with the guy. It is going well. It is going very well. Anyway, this is not for me to talk about my life. This is for me to read. Anyway, it's only a couple more pages left, and this is from Damon's point of view. This is called The Morning After. I believe in you. I think you can do it. You'll kick it. I wasn't sure if I was dreaming, but if I was, I didn't want to wake up. The scent of peach and vanilla teased me, invaded me. Cat. Only she smelled that wonderful. Of summer and all of the things I could want and never have. The length of her body was pressed against mine, with her hand resting on my stomach. The steady rise and fall of her chest became my entire world, and in this dream, because it had to be a dream, I felt my own chest matching her breaths. Every cell in my body sparked and burned. If I was awake, I'd surely take on my true form, but my body was on fire. Just a dream, but it felt real. I couldn't resist sliding my leg over hers, burrowing my head between her neck and her shoulder, and inhaling deeply. Divine, perfect, human. Breathing became more difficult than I'd ever imagined. Lust swirled through me, heady and consuming. I tasted her skin, a slight brush of my lips, a flick of my tongue. She felt perfect underneath me, soft in all the places I was hard. Hey! Moving over her, against her, I loved the sound she made. A soft, wholly feminine murmur that scorched every piece of me. You're perfect for me, I whispered in my own language. She stirred, and I dreamt her responding, wanting me instead of hating me. I pressed down, sliding my hand under her shirt. Her skin felt like satin underneath my fingertips. Precious, prized. If she was mine, I'd cherish every inch of her. And I wanted to. Now, my hand crept up, up, up. Cat gasped. The dreamy cloud dissipated with the sound I'd felt all the way through me. Every muscle locked up. Very slowly, I pried my eyes open. Her slender, graceful neck sloped before me. A section of skin was pink from the stubble on my jaw. The clock on the wall ticked. Shit. I'd felt her up in my sleep. I lifted my head and stared down at her. Cat watched me, her eyes smoky, wonderful grey and questioning. Double shit. Good morning, she said, her voice still rough with sleep. Using my arm, I pushed up, and even then, knowing that none of it had been a dream, I couldn't look away from her, didn't want to. An infinite need was there, in her, in me, demanding that I kneel to it, and I wanted to. Damn it, did I ever want to? The only thing that got to me, that cleared the layers of lust and idealistic stupidity out of my head, was a trace shimmering around her. She looked like the brightest star. She was in danger. She was a danger to all of us. With one last look, I shot across the room with inhuman speed, slamming the door behind me. Every step away from that room, from that bed, was painful and stiff. Rounding the corner, I almost ran into my sister. Dee studied me, eyes narrowed. Shut up, I muttered, heading past her. I didn't say anything, jerkface. Amusement betrayed her words. Once inside my bedroom, I quickly changed into a pair of sweats and slipped on my sneakers. Running into my sister cooled most of me down, but there was a raw edge to my nerves, and I needed to be out of this house, away from her. Not even bothering to change my shirt, I picked up speed, shooting through the house and out the front door. The moment my sneaks touched the porch, I took off and darted into the woods in a burst of speed. Overhead skies were grey and bleak. Drizzle pelted my face like 1,000 tiny needles. I welcomed it, pushing and pushing until I was deep into the woods. Then I shed my human skin, taking my true form as I shot between the trees, moving until I was nothing more than a streak of light. This was wrong. Think of Dawson. Look at what happened to him. Did I ever want to take the same risk? Leave Dee all alone? But even now I could feel her skin, taste it, sweet and sugary like candy. Hear that wonderful sound she made over and over again, haunting every mile I put in between us. An idea began to form, one that Dee would hate, but I didn't see any other option. I could go to the DoD and request a move to one of the other communities. We'd be giving up our home, leaving our friends behind, and Matthew, but it would be for the best. It was the right thing to do. Dee would be safe. It would keep Kat safe. Because Dee couldn't stay away from her, and neither could I. But no matter where I went, what I was running from would still be with me. Kat. She wasn't just back in the house, in that bed. She was with me now, inside me, and there was no outrunning that. Anyway, that was Sneaks. Right? Right? You missed out on there's some serious words that they use, and I'm just like, oh, cringe. Yumtastic indeed. Oh, thank you. You guys are so lovely. Anyway, that's the end of the first book, like the very, very end, like the bonus content included. So we'll take maybe a day or so break. Oh, that's okay. We'll take a day or so break and then we'll get to book 2. I don't really want to leave too much time in between the books because I know that I'll forget what's happening. And also my motivation will definitely dwindle if I put too much time in between me and reading. You know, it's one of those things you kind of have to just like keep on doing. Anyway, feel free to join me outside on the balcony. I'm going to cut this stream because it is streaming to all my other social media. And I will see you in like 2 minutes. Anyway, if anyone is watching on any other platform, feel free to come and join me on Haps. And thanks for listening. See you guys.